Hello students, I hope everyone is well and good. So today I am here to teach you a subject biology under which we are going to learn a topic. So in order to learn it carefully, I want you to just be careful with the terms and listen it carefully, because you have to then and there you have to correlate all the terms and all the physiological functions whatever we are going to deal. Biological subject is related with a biological process only. So before going to start a chapter, I want you to just give some introduction with that, right? Listen it very carefully. On your screen you can see endocrine system. That is a system nothing but the similarly like digestive system you would have heard, respiratory system you would have heard that. So endocrine system, what it generally leads to the hormonal actions, right? It is a nothing but the chemical messenger system, and hormone what it does, it is generally directly releases into the circulatory system of a body, right? And does it functions. Now, for the endocrinology, there is a term. If we are study a particular type of endocrine systems in the biological subject, that is known as endocrinology. That you should know that, okay? And here, if endocrine system it is there, and then some part of hormone is there. Then there will be some properties of hormone will be there. For regarding properties of hormone, you should know, you should have some outline idea regarding that. That is especially it is a specialized gland secreted directly into the hormone, transported obviously into the bloodstream and reaches out to the target cell. Number third, it is not only targeted, it not only affect the particular organ but surrounding area of the cell and the tissues of the body, right? Number four, it is present in a very small amount which acts on a body, and it also required for a body in essential amount, right? And the fifth one, it is chemical structure. Based on the chemical structure, it present in a different forms, that is steroid, protein and amino acids, right? Now now on so today, in the introduction part, previously we have discussed regarding the endocrine system. Now the in the introduction part, what happens, the mechanism of hormone cell you should know. In the hormone cell, in the endocrine cells, there will be some sort of chemical object which will release out from the cells of the endocrines. And what it does, it will goes and bind and with the receptor of the another cell body, where it affects the target cell. It leads to the changes, some on the on some changes up to certain extent on the target cell of our body, and perform certain actions that we'll see in a detailed manner, right? This is the action part. You should be able to correlate these things, right? Now on your screen there will be classification of hormones based on their chemical nature. What are the types of the hormones? That is peptide hormone, amino acid hormone, steroid hormones, right? Under the peptide hormone, ACTH will come, and this steroid hormone, aldosterone, androgens, estrogens, these things. Amino acids, that is thyroxine. And there is a mechanism of the hormonal action. On your screen you can see that the control of hormonal level, that is very important. What happens, our body will give some sort of signals under certain conditions. Suppose our body is very sensitive to the inflammation or any sort of infection, so in that condition our body CNS part, that is hypothalamus part, will act on that time, and through the pituitary gland it releases some thyroid hormone, which leads to the production of immune system cells, and releases some sort of hormone which act against the infections, right? That is a positive feedback. If sometimes the body feels it should stop, then that is a negative feedback, right? And you should keep it in a mind and try to correlate these hormonal action while discussing the hormonal action of particular gland in this chapter, right? So today our chapter is going to be control and coordination. That is chapter number 9, right? And general chemical structure and the function of the endocrine system. There are three main categories for the hormones. You have to be clear with their properties and their particular particular terms is there. For peptide, what is the synthesis for the peptides that is required for the processing, means it present in an inactive form, it requires certain process to become in an active form. What type of storage it is there? Is stored in a vesicles, right? Now For solubility, what it is, most are polar in nature and water soluble, right? And their receptors, what it is, bind receptors on a cell membrane. Effects often fast. Example, ACTH, parathyroid hormones. And steroid hormones, synthesis through the cholesterol. Storage released immediately. Then solubility, generally non-polar and require. Receptors bind to the intracellular receptors. Alternate alterations in the gene expressions takes place. And example, it is cortisol, aldosterone, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, right? You should be able to differentiate these two properties of the hormones, because it is very important while dealing with their actions in our body, and how it leads to the physical changes and what it does actually there, right? Now the third one, it is amino acid synthesis, amino acid from the tyrosine. Chemical structure also you can find it out, there is no problem in that. And stored before release, it present in a body in a stored form of, stored in a particular organ. Then some are polar, and some maybe act as a protein bound. Adrenal act on membrane receptor, right? And adrenal function like peptides. Thyroid hormones function in a similar manner to the steroid, right? Sometimes this hormone, some hormones act as a peptide and some hormones act as a steroid. What are the examples of these amino acids? That is triiodothyronine and adrenaline, right? These you should be able to differentiate with their properties. What about the synthesis, how it is releases, from where it is stored, with their location, their function, and their production. It is very important to correlate, okay, time to time, while explanation, while hearing the explanation of each target organ and target hormone. Here on your screen you can see that under the control and coordination system, what happens, if we deals with the particularly hormonal action, there are two types of organisms are there under that, that is male and female. Based on the physical character, certain physical characteristics and some properties, we will be able to differentiate each one of them, that is a female and that is a and other one is a male, right? And how it happens, because of ovaries, some glands is there and some hormones they'll be producing, and their target organ is there, their certain functions, their particular functions will be there. For female, there is an ovaries is there, right? And for male, this is for female and this is for male, testis, right? These two hormones basically leads to different leads to some different activities in these both organism bodies, which makes us to categorizes them in a different as a male or in a female. So it is a biological and natural process only. We should not discriminate based on their gender factor. Instead of that, we should respect each other equally, and try to improve our gender index of a country. It ultimately leads to the economical growth of a country. Why? Because if we treat them equally, we'll give equal opportunity to them, and that leads to the production of economic of for a country in a in a profit manner only, right? So there are glands in our body that is present. Pineal gland is there. Melatonin is a hormone. Target is many organ. Biological clock is a function. Pituitary gland is there. FSH and LH is there. Ovaries is there. Menstrual cycle is a function. Thyroid gland is there. Thyroxine will be producing by the thyroid gland, then liver, then metabolic rate. Okay, adrenal gland is there. Adrenal, cortisol, many organ it is there. And this is a fight or flight, right? And pancreas is there. Insulin and glucagon is there. Liver is there. Blood sugar level is also there. Blood sugar level is a function to improve or regulate the blood sugar level. What happens generally in these, this is a general outline of the gland. You shouldn't get confused, and it should while discussing regarding these organs and these hormones, you should be able to have some ideas what type of hormone present in which type of organism, and where it is targeting and where it is functioning. Okay, and one by one we'll see the explanation of each organ, right? here here you can see that uh, mode of action mode of action for through the membrane receptor. Here one example of the hormone it is given, that is non-steroid hormone. Okay, first messenger, first it will bind with the receptor of the intracellular membrane, then the second what it does, it will activate the G protein in present inside the cell membrane. And due to the property of this plasma membrane that is hydrophobic in nature, non-steroid hormone means what you should be able to clarify the term, that is it is peptide hormone, right? Peptide hormone, what it does, it is not in a hydrophobic nature, so it requires a receptor to bind it with the plasma membrane in order to activate adenyl cyclase, which perform for the production of secondary messenger, that is CAMP, cyclic monophosphate. And through the ATP, it requires ATP to for the production of the secondary messenger, then activate the protein kinase. It activate specific enzymes which ultimately leads to the production of the product from the substrate, right? What it does there, where it is happening, it is happening in a cytosol of the body, and it targeted cell membrane. Okay, it is a targeted inside the targeted cell membrane. How it is happening, it is getting a proper signal throughout the process in a body, right? After that only it is performing some sort of functions in our similarly in our life also we should be clear with our communication. Whatever we are communicating, it should be proper, otherwise it leads to what some misunderstanding, and it affects our interpersonal relationship. Okay, so just be clear with expressing words during writing these answers in your exams. Okay, for that purpose only I'm explaining through the diagram, right? Now here you can see that the steroid hormones, that is endosterone, aldosterone, all those hormones, right? And steroid hormone example is there, structural example it is there. Steroid hormone, it is entering directly into the cell membrane. How? Because it's hydrophobic nature, right? It is also polar non-polar properties that steroid will be having, and it is attached with the receptor of the cell membrane, where it will forming a complex, and inside the nucleus it will form a gene product. Okay, it ultimately it is a basic outline of the steroid hormone, how it perform its actions, right? This one. Now here the steroid hormone, what it does, it directly binds to the plasma membrane with the help of G protein. It acts on it forms a complex and form a CAMP, and protein kinase A will act on that, ultimately leads to the binding of the DNA portion of the DNA. It will bind through the nucleus inside the nucleus of the cell, and from the DNA it forms a mRNA through the transcription process. Rough endoplasmic reticulum protein synthesis, it will takes place, through which calcium production will takes place, and it regulates the calcium level in a body. And smooth muscle contraction is there, that is uterine myometrial cells, right? Now, and it is a function, it is an outline function of the CAMP second messengers, right? Now, okay. Mode of action through the intracellular membrane. For the steroid hormone, here one example is given. In your book, it is given that uterine cell membrane, it is there. Here hormone, what is that? Estrogen hormone is there. It is entering into the cell and binding with the receptor inside the nucleus where the genome is there. It is performing action for formation of mRNA, then a protein formation, then physiological responses, that is tissue growth and differentiation, right? Here the flow chart is also given. Steroid hormone cell from the cell membrane. First step, it is hormone binds to receptor. Second, it is hormone receptor complex enter into the nucleus, right? And the third one, it is hormone receptor dimers bind the part of the DNA. That part is known as SRES. Fourth step, it is mRNA formation, transcription, and then new protein will form. That is translation. Fifth step. Sixth is physiological actions, right? Ultimately leads to the physiological actions only. Now here in a hypothalamus, okay, first organ it is hypothalamus. Just be clear with their location, their nature of the peptide, what type of peptide hormone they will be secreting, which type of classification it is there, and what type of production specifically it is for leads to the forming hormones in a body, right? For the location regarding here, you can see a diagram on your screen. For brain, there is a physiological properties for there. uh, just be clear with the location term floor of diencephalon, where it will be having a pituitary gland. It will be attached with that pituitary gland, and hypothalamus is there. What is the function of hypothalamus? Generally it produces ADH and oxytocin and peptide, and for which type of secretion of hormone takes place, that is peptide and neurosecretory hormone also we can say that. Okay. And for pituitary gland from hypothalamus, it is controlling almost throughout our body functions, which includes the water balances and stress, hunger actions, reproduction part, thermoregulation, sleep awake cycle, right? Some part of the pituitary gland also we'll see in a detailed manner, right? Here, from the here pituitary gland will be having two part. One is anterior pituitary part, then the posterior pituitary part, right? Anterior pituitary is a adenohyphosis, and posterior pituitary also called a neurohyphosis. Anterior pituitary is a TSH, it will be producing ACTH, will be producing LH, FSH, GH, prolactin. Posterior pituitary, it is oxytocin, vasopressin. Vasopressin another name is ADH, antidiuretic hormone. What happens, these two part of the pituitary gland will produce different hormones, and this pituitary gland is having a clear label diagram, which you should be able to draw clearly in your exams, in your notebook also. This part is this optic chiasm, and here adenophysis part is there, under which pars tuberculosis, pars intermedia, pars distalis part is coming, and under which posterior median eminence and fundibular stem is there, right? And a cleft, through a cleft, it is attaching with these two part, right? And with the hypophyseal portal system is also there, through which what happens, hypothalamus and pituitary gland will be able to transport or transfer the blood and exchange the material through the vein and arteries. Okay, these two part should be clear in your mind, right? And these pituitary gland, the hypho or hypophysis gland, this diagram should be able to label clear manner, and it should be very neat in your notebook, right? Now on your screen you can see that anterior pituitary gland is there. Anterior pituitary, for what happens, they'll be producing different sort of hormone, that is somatostatin. If we talk about somatostatin, there is a plus sign is there and the negative sign is there. That is nothing but their secretion. If they are secreting in an enough amount, that is a plus sign. If their body feels to stop the production of somatostatin, that is for the negative sign, right? For growth hormone, it is also there. For production of growth hormone, what it ultimately does, it leads to physiological growth, okay, where bone is required. Production of bone is very important in that. And and sometimes it leads to, if hypersecretion of this growth hormone is there, it leads to pituitary dwarfism, that is a short height, right? Ultimately, if no growth is there, then obviously dwarfism will take place, that is pituitary, leads to the pituitary gland, that is why pituitary dwarfism. If it is hypersecretion it is there, then that is a gigantism. If there is enlargement of our hand, leg and other part of body, it leads to the acromegaly, right? Now the second hormone, it is prolactin, there where it also leads to the hormonal action feedback loop mechanism. You have to correlate with this term with the certain condition and certain diseases, right? Prolactin, what it does, what is it, is actual function, it is related to mammary gland milk production, right? Now here GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, which ultimately releases LH and FSH, right? under which in the female what it does, it produces the estrogen and progesterone, right, in ovaries. But in males, if through the testes it produce the testosterone, and it is having molecular structure, will be having interstitial cell stimulating hormone, that is ICSH hormone, right. And then they'll be producing TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone, which it leads to the production of the thyroid stimulating hormone, and acts on which organ? Thyroid hormone. Releases thyroid hormone for production of certain functions in a body. Now the corticotropin releasing hormone, corticotropic releasing hormone, what it affects? It affects on ACTH, which present on the border part of a kidney, in each kidney, and releases the corticosteroid. These are the hormones you should be remember throughout your this chapter, and try to correlate while explaining the other part of the hypopituitary gland, what type of hormone it is producing. Okay, that is the main target. Okay, here. Here you can see the on your screen adenohyphosis and neurohyphosis. There is a another name for the pituitary gland, pituitary gland part. Okay, posterior part known as neurohyphosis, right? And what it producing actually? It is produced oxytocin, which ultimately acts on mammary gland, antidiuretic hormone, kidney tubules. If you know the structure of kidney, what type of cell is there, what type of function, central unit of the kidney cells, and loop of Henle will be there. There will be many sort of tubule formation in a kidney structure that you would have learned in your excretory system itself. What it does there, they will be absorbing all sort of mineral from the water and from the other sources of body, from the blood or from the food particle. Okay, what happens if excess amount of water excretion takes place, that leads to term micturition, okay, in our body. Now if it takes place in an excess amount, at that time antidiuretic hormone takes place, function will takes place, and what it does, it will stop the formation, it will stop the excretion of those hormones from our those minerals from our body, and reabsorb those for those minerals, and balances our body regulation part. Okay, that is osmoregulation, ultimately leads to the thermoregulation and osmoregulation, right. Now here on your now the next part of the hormonal gland, that is pineal gland. Here where it is present, that is the roof of diencephalon. Don't get confused with the roof and the floor of the diencephalon. Okay, pineal gland is, it is particularly for roof of diencephalon, and for pituitary gland, here you can see that is floor of diencephalon. That is a structure you would have learned in your previous classes, right. And pituitary gland, it is hanging on a bone of a sphenoid bone, that particularly term name is sella turica of the bone, right. And here pineal gland, what it does ultimately, this structure you would have learned in a physiological part itself, what is the layer, what is the different part is there. From the hypothalamus, pituitary and pineal gland will be coming. Pineal gland ultimately leads to the melatonin formation, and melatonin is a secretion of hormone for the sleep hormone. It regulates a biological clock in our body, which ultimately controls the sleeping and awakening function throughout the routine of our body, right. Now, okay, now here the thyroid gland you can see on your screen, that is another organ where it will be producing what through the thyroid gland. What is the location? Okay, first you should be clear with the term what is the location. Present in between the trachea and larynx, and how it is protected through the thyroid cartilage. The thyroid gland, it is there in the and connected to the isthmus part, right. Isthmus part of our body, and here nodule is there on your screen. You can see the structure. This is the structure of the thyroid gland through which nodule it is coming out. Ultimately it also perform simultaneous action with the parathyroid hormone. Okay, don't get confused. First we'll see the structure of the cells present in a thyroid gland, that is follicle cells is there, and parafollicular cells is there, that is also called the C cells, clear cell, blood capillaries is there, red blood cell is there, right? And the right lobe and the left lobe is also there in a thyroid gland. And these cells, what happens, these cells present in a arrangement of the parafollicular cell, and inside these cells there is gelatinous part is there, that is called the colloid. Okay, and through the blood capillaries and the red blood cells, what it does, it transport the or exchange the material, whatever source of material it is there. Okay, and perform the actions. For what is the function of the thyroid gland, that is through the hypothalamus, it acts on certain condition. If the thyroid releasing hormone action is there, what it does, thyroid hormone will produce in a form of T3 and T2, T4. And how it is forming, that we'll see. Basically, what is the main function of thyroid hormone, it is, that is growth and development, growth and development, and increased catecholamine effect. Catecholamine is nothing but the hormonal secrete neuros nerve cells hormones that it will ultimately affects our body, and during the negative feedback, it stimulates the stop hormone, it will stop the hormone if it is producing in a larger amount. That effect we'll see in a detailed manner in coming slides. Okay, here just look at on your screen the thyroid hormone, what it does, the thyroid stimulating hormone, they'll be forming two molecules, T1 and the T2. While combining these two forms, they'll be performing for production of the T3 and T4, right? T1 is a monoiodothyronine molecule, and the T2 diiodothyrothionine molecule. These two will be forming triiodothyronine hormones, and the fourth one is a T4 thyroxine hormone. Don't get confused with these names, they are short form, they are expanded form, right? What at all it is producing, how it is affecting in a positive condition, how it is affecting in a negative feedback condition, what type of disease it relates to, right? And here on your screen you can see that, that is through the hypothalamus it is controlling through the pituitary gland. If TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is releases through the thyroid gland, it affects on it, and it produces T3 T4 calcitonin hormone also. Calcitonin hormone ultimately leads to the parathyroid hormone action. Okay, that we'll see in a detailed explanation. What it does function, heart function, digestion function is there, brain development and nervous system function is there, right? And due to the presence of these hormone in our body, we will be able to categorize all sorts of hormone in a different categories. Try to think about the other country people, it will be your creativity if you think it, and gather some information with those type of ideas, how other country people are different from us in a, they'll be having different sort of skin, they'll be having different sort of height from us. Then just try to think it in a creative manner and try to apply these things, and gather some information. It will be little bit interesting only and nothing else, and good to get knowledge about it. Okay, here you can see on your screen, there will be some there will be some condition, critical conditions leads to due to the hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism. In the hyperthyroidism condition, it increases the metabolic rate sensitivity, sweating, rapid respiration, BMR condition, and the blood pressure, right? And during the hypothyroidism leads to less BMR, blood pressure, and dry skin also occurs, thick tongue, jaundice may occur also. Hypothyroidism, what happens, first one, if it is occurs in a children, it leads to cretinism. Cretinism, on your screen you can see a picture that the child physical condition or physical appearance, how it changes from the normal one, right? Deficient TSH secretion, it is there, clinicals, mental retardation and impaired growth. And in adult hypothyroidism, it leads to myxedema, right? Rarely pituitary or hypothalamic hypofunction is there. And hypothyroidism, goiter may occur, toxic adenoma, and leads to thyroiditis. right? That is infection of the thyroid hormone. On your screen you can see that the grave disease is also there. Thyroid, due to disinfection of the or impairment in a thyroid hormone, it leads to this graves disease where the bulging of eyes will takes place, right? And the physiological condition, ultimately it's change, it leads to the redness of the eyes, bulging eyes, and the eye retract also takes place, okay, in a eye. These are the very sensitive organs in a body. Now, on your screen, you can see that there is a goiter disease. It's shown in a picture in a lady in neck, through which thyroid gland is affected, and it leads to physiological change of the neck. How it is becoming a different type of physiological character in a body. This is nothing due to the iodized salt we use for this treatment. You would have seen some sort of advertisement also for that. And in what happens, this is the impairment function of thyroid gland only. And on your screen there is a flow chart of increased blood in calcium and what is the function of calcitonin. It leads to the parathyroid hormone functions, and where it will perform the osteoblast and osteocytes for bone formation, and through the osteoclasts it leads to certain other condition also. But till now we have seen the what is a hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism condition for thyroid gland. In here some sort of condition, their diseases and their hormonal regulation is there, which you should able to correlate with these terms, okay? And now on your screen you can see that the homework part is there. Till now we have completed some organ, their hormonal action, and what is the condition when it leads to different their hypersecretion and their hyposecretion. With that you have to do the homework with two questions. Question number 1, draw a label diagram and explanation function of pituitary gland. Question number 2, differentiate the hormonal impairment in animal and humans, right? These two things you can search and gather some information by any other resources, that is your net or video. And on your screen you can see a link also, where you have to open this link. You will get it from your respective teachers, which under which you have to submit it with your answer, fill it and submit it, which you will and through this you will be able to get a clear idea regarding this chapter, control and coordination. Next class we'll see some other explanation, detailed manner for glands, right? Till that, for thank you for being in my class, and thank you.